In the previous two videos, we first cleaned the data and then added a couple new columns based on calculations from the data. After all that, we're ready to do some analysis on the data, and that's what we're going to be doing in this video. The main tool that we're going to be using here is pivot tables and pivot charts. Some of you may have been exposed to this tool in Excel already. If not, don't worry, this tutorial is going to be very step-by-step, so just follow along and you should have the same outcome. So in order to create our first pivot chart, we need to select all of the data, all of our cleaned data, and then insert a pivot table. Here you can see we already have the table selected, and we're going to create that in a new worksheet. And we'll call this worksheet Workstation Analysis. So first we're going to look at a workstation analysis, and then we're going to look at a part-by-part analysis. So let's start with this rows column here. You'll have this pivot table field on the right side where all the headers from your table are going to be, and you drag and drop them into these boxes, which populates the pivot table here on the left. So we'll start with the rows. We're going to want the rows to be the workstations. So drop that in there, and you can see the pivot table populating. Our filters, we're going to want to filter out the cycle times versus wait times. And we're also going to be able to want to look at individual parts. And then the last field that we're going to need to fill in is the difference, which is going to be the actual value. So we'll drop that in the values box. Right now, it's looking at the count, the number of times by workstation that you have a scan, which we don't really need. So to change that, we're going to open up, click on this info icon, open up the pivot table field. We can change it. We're going to change the format of this cell to time, which we've been using so far. And then instead of the count, we're going to want to look at the average difference by workstation. So you click OK, and you'll see these times. So this is looking at all of the times. In order to get just the cycle time or just the wait time, you could use these filters up here. But we're going to wait until we create our pivot chart to do that. So in order to create our pivot chart and visualize this data, under the pivot table analyze menu, you'll see this pivot chart option, and it pops up. And this is what's so powerful about pivot tables and pivot charts. You're able to filter the data and it automatically changes the chart. So instead of using these filters over here, a more user-friendly and professional way to do it is insert slicers. So the two slicers that we want are two filters, so we'll check the cycle/wait time as well as the part. And you'll see these slicers pop up. So now we've finally done it, and we could use these slicers to filter and see how our data looks. Let's click on cycle time first. This is looking at the average cycle time across all the parts by workstation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can see workstation 1 and 5 are the shortest, workstation 3 is the longest cycle time, and 2 and 4 are somewhere in between the two. If you look at wait time, 4 and 5 are after the bottleneck in the system, so it's going to make sense that they're waiting for parts and have a lot of downtime at their station. You could also filter by part. So if we look at part 1, the individual cycle times at each of the workstations just for part 1, and look through all the parts. Remember how we cleaned the data, so this one's missing workstation 1. That's just the reality of using real-world data. It's not going to be perfect, but it's important to understand how to clean your data and how that's going to affect your results. So you can look through all the parts. We'll take that filter away and look at all of them again. So you're going to want to spruce up this chart, make it look nice, add some axis labels, and we're going to make the title change based on our filters. So to do that, we're going to use a concatenate function, which combines a couple different strings of text into a single string. So just follow along these steps. In one of these unused cells, type in concatenate. So you have concatenate right here. The first string of text is going to be this cycle filter. So we'll click on that. A comma lets you put in a new string, so we'll add a comma there. and then in quotations, time by workstation for part. And we'll close those quotations, and our last string of text is going to be the part filter. We'll close up this formula, and you can see it combines cycle, time by workstation for part, and the part filter. This will change based on what you click on here. So in order to make the title of the chart equal this cell, just click on the title, type in the equal sign in the formula bar, and then click on the cell. And to clean it up, drag it over, and it looks good. So you can see, if you change it to weight, it'll change in the title. If you change the part number, so everything will change based on the filters that you add. Alright, now that you have created these pivot charts, you'll be able to better answer some of the questions in step 5 of the lab.